Swimming pool. The first thing that comes to mind when you want to make your backyard more enjoyable is building a swimming pool, especially since this process is not particularly difficult. First of all, you need to prepare the territory. Using special equipment, you have to cut down the interfering trees and remove any stumps from the ground. If there are any large stones, they must also be removed. Once the designer has decided on the shape of the future pool, the excavation begins. In this case, a crawler excavator is used. Excess material is then removed from the site by a truck. All of the following construction steps may vary from site to site because they depend on the materials selected, the shape of the future pool, and the landscape features. We are seeing the construction of a wooden pool. The workers assemble a wooden frame in stages. First, the curved walls and the supports. After that, a concrete mixture is poured at the bottom of the resulting pit. It is distributed to create a perfectly smooth surface once it hardens. At the same time, workers create the internal texture of the pool and lay the steps, and create the shallow end of the pool. Since concrete tends to absorb moisture, the next step is to cover all the interior surfaces of the pool with a special PVC film that will act as insulation. Sometimes, other finishing materials are placed on top of the film, but in our case, this is the final coating. After that, the workers finish the edges with stone and install the formwork for pouring the concrete pool deck. At the same time, the pool plumbing is put together and the stairs are installed. In total, the construction of the pool took the team 2 months. Hammock under a canopy. You can create an unusual and beautiful relaxation area using wooden boards and a small set of tools. The first stage of construction is digging holes to install the supports. In this case, their depth was about 3 or 4 feet. The workers use a system of straps, which are stretched and fastened in the ground with stakes, so that the supports stand upright. Before pouring concrete for the foundation, both supports are fixed that way. This guarantees that they're perpendicular to the ground and that the structure will be even. The distance between the posts is approximately 14 feet and 2 inches. The concrete mixture, which is mixed and then poured into the holes, will help fix the structure in place. The material will take about a day to dry and harden. This time can be used to create the future roof of the canopy using wooden bars and boards. Miter and reciprocating saws are used to give them the right size. To improve the aesthetics, the surfaces are sanded with a grinder. The canopy is assembled after the foundation hardens. The master creates the supports first, then attaches the crossbeams to them. Metal brackets are used as connecting elements. The roof is decorated with short longitudinal beams. However, beforehand, the expert attaches several layers of special protective UV-resistant fabric and fixes it with a stapler. After that, all that remains is to install the mounts for the hammock and hang it up. To make the canopy last as long as possible, all wooden parts are coated with a special protective compound. Trampoline. Traditionally, trampolines are placed on metal supports, but this is not the only possible option. You can also install a trampoline right in the ground. First, you need to determine the size of the trampoline, and then dig a pit of the right size. In this case, a round trampoline will be installed, so the workers use a self-made compass from string and spray paint to measure. The fastest way to create the pit is with an excavator, but in this case, the trampoline is so small that the workers use an ordinary shovel. The pit should be as deep as the height of the trampoline support and have flat, even edges. This is necessary because the support structure of the trampoline, after assembly, is installed inside the pit. A large amount of soil is excavated. Most of it, however, is then poured around the edges of the pit, fixing the trampoline in place. The remaining soil is removed, as the space in the center must be left empty. The last stage of construction is the installation of the bounce mat. Despite the fact that it's located at ground level, it is absolutely safe to jump. The empty space under the mat allows it to stretch under the jumps. Perhaps the only thing we should mention is that any trampoline should be installed away from trees, fences, and other potentially dangerous objects. Artificial waterfall. If there's not enough space in your backyard for large-scale projects, you can consider small decorative elements. For example, this artificial waterfall. In order to build it, you just need 20 square feet of empty space, and the process itself is not that complicated. The waterfall's not very deep, so the groundwork is done quickly. The excavated holes are covered with plastic sheeting to prevent the water from flooding the entire plot. Since the waterfall needs to have a height difference to work, the construction is divided into 3 zones of different depths. The insulation film isn't aesthetically pleasing or natural, so workers hide it by decorating the bottom with pebbles. Basalt rocks were used to decorate the area around the waterfall, as well as to contain the water. Additionally, some plants were also used for decoration. Hidden among all of these stones is a system of a pump and pipes, which is responsible for the circulation of the water. In total, the creation of this artificial waterfall took the workers a day and a half. That, according to them, is quite a lot. The soil was harder than they thought, which made the work more complex, because the earthworks lasted longer than they expected. Under more favorable conditions, this decorative element can be created in one work shift. Sauna. A concrete foundation was used for the construction of this sauna. The main material for the construction of the building is prepared natural wood. The finished sauna will have a square shape, so the slats are connected at 90-degree angles. To do this, each piece must be pre-cut accordingly. Standard screws are used as connecting elements. The work starts with the assembly of the base of the future sauna. First, the crossbeams are placed in the casing. Then they're covered from above with wooden panels, which will be the floor of the steam room. On the top of the base, a wooden frame made of particularly strong load-bearing beams is installed. Pre-assembled wooden panels are fastened between them. Each of them is also made of flat slats. The sliding doors are installed in place of one of the walls. The glass should be tempered to withstand both high temperature and sharp fluctuations. At the last stage, the roof is mounted. Its stability is guaranteed by a girder structure. An insulation layer is also placed on top to avoid leaks. At this point, the frame can be considered ready. Now the workers proceed to work on the inside using the same wooden elements. In the final phase, several ventilation holes are drilled in the walls. On the outside and inside, they're covered with protective metal grills. The furnace of the sauna is not built in, it's installed separately. The Canadian company Dunlop Leisurecraft produces these saunas. This particular model, the CU550, accommodates up to 2 adults. Natural western red cedar was chosen for the construction. Mini office. Sometimes the backyard provides so much space that you can build a whole separate building in it. As in this case, it could serve as a mini office or a studio. The structure is lightweight, so to speed up construction, the standard concrete foundation was replaced by metal piles. Steel pipes with a bolt on the end are driven into the ground, and then the wooden frame is assembled on top. First, a casing of the same dimensions as the future construction is assembled. If construction is carried out in a region with a cold climate, before laying the floor, the holes between the beams are filled with thermal insulation foam blocks. Depending on the project, the floor may be made of plywood or wooden slats. The next stage is the assembly of the frame of the building itself. The walls are made of SIP panels, which are assembled by hand. The outer and inner layers are made of plywood. Inside, a layer of insulating material is placed to create a kind of sandwich. After that, it's time to install the doors and windows in the special empty spaces left for them. At the same time, the workers connect the building to the power grid, conduct the heating, and cut holes in the walls for electrical outlets and ventilation. The last step is the construction of the porch or terrace, if there is one in the project. It's noteworthy that in most countries there's no need to get a permission to build such a structure in your yard, and it can have almost any size. Hot tub. Building a hot tub using natural wood is extremely complicated and complex, so it's better to entrust it to professionals. Nevertheless, the construction takes up relatively little space, so it will fit perfectly in a small backyard. The construction doesn't need a special foundation, you just need a small pit with a layer of concrete on its walls for greater stability. It's better if the pit is deep. In this case, it'll be easier to climb into the hot tub. First of all, a round or oval-shaped base is installed. It's assembled from wooden slats which were tightly connected to each other and coated with a protective compound. After that, the walls are assembled using specially prepared boards. Their edges are sawed in such a way that not even the slightest gap is left when they're joined. After installation, the boards are tightened with metal hoops, which further compresses the material, removing the remaining gaps between the wood. If the procedure is done correctly, not a single drop of water will seep through the gaps. When the hot tub's assembled, it can finally be put in place. The worker grinds the top edges of the boards and installs the benches. After that, holes are sawed in the wood for draining and drawing water, and the hot tub is connected to the water supply. In our case, the customer wanted a hot tub with a wooden seat along the edge. The worker added it to the structure at the end of the work. This project was implemented by specialists at the American company Sullivan Waterworks. The material chosen is red and western red cedar wood. In addition to the standard connection to the water supply, the hot tub is paired with a gas heater and has an air system for a hydro massage. Pergola. An interesting feature of this construction is the lack of foundation. Despite the fact that the pergola is mounted on a paved platform, its supports are installed on normal ground. Therefore, to speed up the construction process and at the same time to avoid earthworks, the masters have purchased special metal supports. They look like boxes with a long spike narrowing at the bottom. They are hammered into the ground and thus securely fixed. The beams that support the pergola are inserted into these boxes and then bolted in place. In the next phase of construction, workers begin assembling the frame. They use beams of natural wood, which are fastened together with a set of bolts, nuts, and washers. When all the supports are in a vertical position, they're joined to create a single structure with the help of strapping. It is assembled from 4 long plates. The roof in this case doesn't have a solid construction. It's assembled in 3 parts. The side parts are made beforehand. They are wooden blocks with crossbeams. And to create the central part, the workers attach the rafters between the already installed blocks. To make the pergola look even more cozy, you can add some walls. In our case, there's only 1 wall, and it's installed just like any standard wooden fences. 2 vertical boards were installed between the supports and a horizontal one underneath. After that, 2 long boards were attached between them.